rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
You know, got a note from longtime listener, great friend of the show, Joel Kramer. Those of you from the old days, you remember Kramer, and he sent me this. He was shopping at his local, this looks like, what is this? Walmart to me. Walmart, known for low prices. Yeah, he says this is the price of a 3 3/4 inch action figure now, $24.97. $25 for a 3 3/4 inch, a 4-inch, essentially, Star Wars action figure. In this day and age, can you believe such a thing? Did you ever think, for those of you longtime Star Wars fans, I'm talking about those of you who remember when you could buy a Star Wars figure for $1.99. And now it's $25 for a 3 3/4 inch action figure. Unbelievable. Now, to be fair, this is the deluxe Cobb Vanth action figure, but still, I mean, deluxe. What? It comes with a couple extra blasters and a jetpack and a bigger bubble. $25. It seems hard to believe, but that's right. Inflation is everywhere, even in Star Wars. Inflation is impacting us. But tell you what, you know what is always inflation free? Yeah, Rebel Force Radio. We come to you free every week here. Your source for the Force. So thankful for you to be hanging out with us. Great show coming up. My gosh, Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. That was that debuted last week on Disney Plus. We're gonna have a breakdown of that along with our good friend, great friend of the show, singer-songwriter Sin. That's right, Mrs. Kyle Newman joining us. She was at the big premiere shindig, so she's going to be talking about that, her new album, plus her take on Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. And, of course, Mac and I will also weigh in on there. Plus, some new pictures, courtesy of EW, of Skeleton Crew. We also have a new rumor about that Rey film. You know, that Rey film that's been on again, off again. Is there a script? Is there not a script? What's going on with that? Well, we've got a new rumor for that. Plus, highlights from Ewan McGregor's Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. We talked about that a little bit last week. We were on the eve of that happening on the program last week. And, yeah, the bromance between Ewan and Hayden on full display for that. Plus, Donald Glover talking a little bit about the upcoming Lando film that he's working on with his brother. So new comments from him. So lots of news coming up this week. This is definitely the place you want to be if you want to stay ahead of the curve. What's going on in the Star Wars universe if you're new to the program. And introductions may be in order. My name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, excuse me. I got a frog in my throat. That's like that little road frog from Return of the Jedi is in my throat. I think they call that a wart. I got a wart in my throat. Oh. Holy smokes. So let's try that again. Maybe a drink of water, which you really can't find on Tatooine.
There it is.
Unless you want to pay through the roof to get a bottle of water on Tatooine. That's because they can't find water on Tatooine. In the case of Cobb Vanth action figures at $25 a pop, of course, that's absurd. But is it inflation or is it good old-fashioned corporate price gouging? I tend to believe the latter, and we're the idiot fools who keep paying these guys for silly things like $25 3 3/4 inch action figures. We're fools for paying that price. So as a result, nobody has a Cobb Vanth action figure. Now, you can wait for the secondary market, and within a year or so, you'll be paying $50, $75. So you got to ask yourself, How badly do you want that Cobb Vanth action figure? Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the thoughts that has been running through my mind ever since I saw it posted earlier this week that Walmart has Cobb Vanth action figure. I want the Cobb Vanth action figure, but at $25, part of me wants to make a stand.
Is this going to be it? This is your stand? This is your Waterloo? Jimmy Mack?
Is Cobb Vanth the one that, the dam is breaking thanks to Cobb freaking Vanth. Oh, is this a picture from Joel Kramer?
Yeah, this is it. Right now? Check it out.
Joel.
Look at this.
Number one, I don't know what's more shocking. The $25 price tag for a 3 3/4-inch Cobb Vanth action figure, or knowing the fact that Joel Kramer shops in Walmart, which I never thought ever happened. The guy is clearly Saks Fifth Avenue all the way.
I love it. Yeah, $25. But you know what? That's what's great about Rebel Force Radio is that, look at Patreon and Rebel Force Radio. We haven't raised any prices on Patreon, right? Still buckets in the door.
Not yet.
But
Patreon's, we always say $1 and you're listening. But like over the course of the last year or so, Patreon keeps nudging me to drop the $1 entry fee and go with $2.
Really?
And they break it all down. Well, you only make 60 cents on the dollar here. But, it's not all about money for us here at Rebel Force Radio. Patreon is just, a great way to get in through the door. And all of our great RFR VIPs co-host episodes of RFR Q&A with me on Patreon. It's a Patreon exclusive. And you get access to it for only $1 a month. That's an insane value. And we throw out like 3 or 4 episodes each month. It's practically a weekly show. It is a weekly show. But I want our RFR VIPs to have visibility. And I want Star Wars fans of all, of any tier of ours, that of our tiers of supporters. I want everyone to be able to access the conversations I have with our great VIPs. So that's why I'm sticking with the $1 entry fee. I must be crazy. Don't be surprised, guys, if it does go up to $2. $2 and you're listening. You know what? $2 and you're listening. Sounds just as good to me.
All right, Jim, I said that because the first price of a Star Wars figure that I can remember, because I remember putting them on my Christmas list and my birthday list. I remember $1.99. Do you remember anything even cheaper? Did they ever get to the sub-dollar when you were first
only
collecting?
If they were on clearance.
Okay.
And those super rare Power of the Force action figures that came out after Return of the Jedi with the collectible coin.
Yeah.
I found those in a thigh or hip high, waist high bin at a toy store in like 1986 going for 50 cents a piece. Yeah.
And you got them all at that point?
I got them all, but I wasn't really thinking about an investment or anything. So
was it an obligation? I've got, I might as well just get these. Is that what it felt like?
It kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
I was not like a collector or anything in 1986. I was hitching a ride home from high school from a buddy of mine, and he said, "Hey, we have to stop in this toy shop because I need to pick up a gift for my nephew's birthday this weekend." And I said, "Fine." Small price to pay for a ride home. God forbid I get on the bus with all those screaming maniacs. So we go in there, and I come across this bin of all of these Star Wars action figures. I say, holy smokes, they're all here. And by this point in time, I had been working a part-time job, so I had money to spend. And I'm seeing this and just flashing back to how much I enjoyed Star Wars action figures. My mom, she gets mad at me for bringing this up, but she did have garage sales where all of my childhood toys went out the door. And I didn't put up any protest. She gave me the money for the sales. I didn't care. I had outgrown toys. But the one thing she never even thought about for a second was the Star Wars action figures. And as a result, as an adult, I returned home and cleaned out the house once I got my own place. So, I mean, I always am very grateful of her for that, for having the foresight. She thought she was saving them for the grandkids because she knew how much I enjoyed them as a kid myself. She didn't think that I was going to come back and then fill up my house with about 5,000 more of those things. But I did.
Yeah.
So, so that's when I ran across like a really, but I think I remember the, like the retail price for the action figures to be, I think $1.89, $1.99, maybe. And that sounds like, scraps to people of, kids of today. But that's how I completed my vintage Power of the Force 2 action figure collection. Well, mostly.
Now, like 5 of them are Ewoks. So I love Ewoks, as we talked about last week. Many of you felt that I was advocating slavery by saying that I would like to have an Ewok as a pet, but that is certainly not what I was intending. But the final 17. I got my final 17, or a few of them, at a KB store in our local mall. This was back before the internet, and we did not know. There was really no way to know, like, what was coming out, what wasn't. At the time, I don't think there were even really any magazines that covered, action figures and that sort of thing. So I go into my KB toy stores in 1985. I'm an 8-year-old kid, and I see Han and Carbonite. I see General Lando with a cloth cape, man. Cloth cape? It blew my mind. Capes were always vinyl up until that point. EV-99, Barada, these guys. And I remember looking on the card back and figuring out which ones. And there were several that I never saw. Like, I never saw the Luke in Stormtrooper gear. Never saw him in the wild. Wouldn't see him until many years later at conventions and things like that. Of course, that Emperor's Imperial Dignitary that every kid wanted. What an exciting action figure he was. He was everywhere. Yak Face, Man-to-Man, never saw those in the wild. But that Han and Carbonite, man, oh man, that was the last figure that I got that I really treasured. It was an all-time favorite of mine. How cool, you could put Han behind the Carbonite slab. Great stuff. Great memories.
Yeah. It wasn't until I was a collector attending things like flea markets and conventions when I was actually able to acquire and finish my vintage action figure collection. And the chase figures were, of course, Luke Stormtrooper, Han and Carbonite, Imperial Gunter, I remember being hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that I had to try. And, of course, Yak Face, that was only available in Canada. So I finally acquired one, courtesy of the generosity of our buddy Dave Myatt, who lives in Vancouver, and he sent me my own Yak Face.
I remember that we were podcasting together at that time when you finally completed your collection of vintage Star Wars.
And I
figures.
also had, that did not complete the collection. It was Rombo the Ewok, who was the one elusive one.
Rombo was was the last one?
Rombo was the last one. And speaking of Ewoks, Jason, we talked about last week, prompted by a listener email, what Star Wars animal would you have as a pet? And you did consider an Ewok for a moment.
More than a moment.
Kyle Newman gave us a little bit of feedback via a shared text, and I think if I hold my phone speaker up to the microphone, you'll be able to hear exactly what Kyle said. Right. So here we go.
Listening to RFR, okay. You are allowed to have an Ewok as your pet because in the Aftermath books, they allow Ewoks as service animals in their canon. So if they're a service animal, and they can be somebody that's an emotional support pet, then you can definitely have them as a house pet. Ewok. They're also cannibals, and you can feed people you hate to them and dispose of their remains. A double bonus.
The benefits are endless of having a pet Ewok because you can feed people that you hate to the Ewoks. This is fantastic. The only downside is that you have to have that little blue vest on the Ewok if it's going to be a service animal, But other than that, according to Kyle Newman, it's fair game.
I'll tell you what, you want ugly stares as you walk down the airport concourse. Walk with an Ewok on a leash, and you will get the ugliest stares. You wouldn't believe it. So, voicemail, listener feedback prompted that discussion last week. So let's see what listener feedback prompts for discussion this week.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Chut, Jason and Jimmy. How are you guys? I hope you're well. This is Paul Stavlo from, originally from Kenosha, Wisconsin. I have a question for you guys, but before I get to that, I just wanted to say thanks for all that you do. Thanks for putting out the best podcast, Star Wars or not, the best podcast out there. It's especially personal to me because, I said I'm originally from Kenosha, Wisconsin. 9 years ago, I moved to the United Kingdom. And 5 years ago, my father found Rebel Force Radio and for the Mandalorian after shows. And we've together have been listening ever since. And it's just a really great way for me and my dad to connect, even though we're so far away. So thanks for making the distance between Kenosha and Dudley in the UK way closer than it actually seems. It's been a real treasure to be able to chat with him every week about the wars and about everything that you guys talk about on the podcast. So anyway, my question is this. We know that I think we can all agree that Lucasfilm has put out some misses recently. And I think that maybe their next film, besides Mandalorian and Grogu and all that, should be a film about the making of Star Wars. Not a documentary, but a story about George Lucas creating Star Wars and how he got it off the ground and how he created, the most cinematic masterpiece of that time, of the era. And, they can focus on all the drama of how people just didn't get it. And I think the quirkiness of George Lucas would be something that could be quite funny to explore in the movie. And I was just wondering, who would you cast as George Lucas in this movie? So, that's my question. You guys know so much more about the making of Star Wars than really anyone else, I would say. But, it'd be really cool to hear you guys' thoughts about that. A movie about the making of Star Wars, a story focusing on George Lucas. Who'd you cast as him? Who'd you cast as the cast of Star Wars? Anyway, that's my question. Love Rebel Force Radio, you guys. May the Force be with you.
Well, thank you very much. And so cool that we're able to sort of bridge that gap of miles between father and son. That's awesome. Hats off to your dad for finding us with the Mando after shows and then sharing the show with you. That's really what it's all about. That's just awesome. It's a great question. For me, I'll just say off the bat that I think a dramatized film about the making of Star Wars is a no-brainer. I think it needs to happen. It must happen. I want Kyle Newman, our buddy, to direct it, and certainly be involved. And our other pal, FJ DeSanto. I just think they are the two that could really bring incredible life to a project like that. And it could be, they made a whole, Jim, they made a whole show, a miniseries about the making of The Godfather. So why
The Offer? I enjoyed that.
So why not Star Wars? I will say for me, hands down, the guy to play him is Josh Robert Thompson. Nobody does a better George than Josh. And I'm not talking about deep fake stuff. It goes beyond, there's an impression, and then there's just somebody who seems to crawl into the skin of the person that they're doing the impression of. and every breath, every nuance is right there. And so for me, it's hands down Josh Robert Thompson. Josh is not a household name. He's not a big named actor in terms of, somebody who could necessarily, bring great box office, but someone who could bring authenticity, passion, and love to the role. I think he's definitely, he's my pick, put it that way.
His audition tape is already out there.
Sure.
It's that video. I don't know what it's called, but look up Josh Robert Thompson and look up, I think it's like A Day at Skywalker Ranch with George Lucas, or A Day on the Ranch with George Lucas. And they're walking around the ranch, and Josh has got the extended belly prosthetic and the plaid shirt and the beard and the dead-on George Lucas impersonation. And they walk up to an animal. I think it's like it's a
goat
zebra
or something. Yeah.
I forget what it is, and he's petting it, and it's beautiful, and Josh says, "Yeah, we're gonna eat it later." Good stuff. I thought, if you want to look alike, the late great Kenny Rogers would have fit the role.
Oh boy, yeah,
well.
these days for sure. Yeah.
Or maybe even that Balin Skull actor. He would have also been good in that role, Ray Stevenson. But if you put the right amount of makeup on someone like a Jonah Hill, I don't know if he could get the voice down, or our own Baby Belushi, I think would be kind of fun in that role. But I think Jason Swank is the guy.
Oh,
who should be put the fake beard on Jason. Yeah, you know all the mannerisms and everything. I'm sure you could nail it.
Think of George circa 1976. He's not the.
The younger. Yeah, you're right.
He's not
you're right.
the
I'm thinking old George.
George.
We're both thinking old George.
Right, George today.
Who would be good is he was in Fanboys. Jay Baruchel. The guy who played
Baruchel would be great. Yes,
he would be really good as a young George Lucas. Jay Baruchel. Windows from Fanboys, and he was in Almost Famous. He's been in a lot of things, and he's got good acting chops too. I could see him playing that kind of, still exhausted George, at that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Early 30s. I mean, look, that's a great screen grab you just put up there.
Yeah.
Put some glasses on this guy and a plaid shirt, and we're in business.
Jay would be fantastic. Yeah, he would be great. But I really do believe, Jim, that this is a great story that really should be dramatized. I think it would be phenomenal, and I think it would have to be a miniseries, sort of on par with The Offer. What we were talking about the making of The Godfather, because it can't just start with them showing up to on Tunisia and doing that famous shoot that was disastrous as they had the big sandstorm and all of that. There's so much more to it. Just George is. He agonizes over filmmaking, even though he's a brilliant filmmaker and great storyteller, but he certainly doesn't enjoy the process. And there'd be so much drama in that, because you as the audience know that he's creating something incredible that will redefine cinema in many ways. And there he is, just hating every minute of it.
Some scripts have circulated around Hollywood. I remember years ago a Chewie script was being floated around, telling the story of the making of Star Wars from Peter Mayhew's perspective. And that thing never got off the ground. And there's been a couple of other personalities attached to the making of the original Star Wars who've seen their stories end up in script pages, but still we're waiting for the film. So maybe somebody will green light it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Disney company or even George Lucas himself. you can still create an unauthorized biography of anyone based on public record and accounts that you find in everything from magazines to the internet, and even interviews the people to give themselves, books, you name it. Anything can be adapted into a movie once it enters into the public realm. But if Star Wars was being made, the making of Star Wars, we'd want it to be done right. And you're absolutely correct, Jason. I think Kyle and FJ are a couple of dudes who'd be perfect to be put in charge of a project like that. So you never know. Maybe someday.
Yeah, great question. Thank you, Paul, so much.
Rebel Force Radio.
Let's get into it. We got lots of news to digest, so let's just hop right into headlines now.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news.
Come closer, I have good news.
All right, all eyes on Skeleton Crew as we count down a couple of months here. December 3rd is the big premiere date for Skeleton Crew on Disney Plus. Our friends over at EW Online, they don't disappoint. We've got a couple of new photos that have dropped as they're looking at their, I guess this is part of maybe a fall preview or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And,
fall TV preview.
Fall TV preview. Boy, I remember the days with the TV guide. You remember the TV guide, the fall preview?
Yes. Oh, my God. Such excitement.
Oh,
you know, get your first glimpse of season 20 of Happy Days. It was just so exciting.
But, yeah, so, you know, they would always start off with returning favorites, and then you'd get the big fall preview with all the new shows and stuff like that. But, yeah, very much interested and excited about Skeleton Crew. What'd they lay on us? Well, they laid on us a photo here. Talk about a rogues gallery of pirates. Lots of characters here, starting off with Vane. Now, Vane, we know from The Mandalorian. And then as we go across here, who else we got? We've got Gunter, played by Jaleel White.
Yeah.
That name sounds familiar to you. That's because he's better known in pop culture circles as Did I Do That? Urkel. Steve
Good old Urkel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jaleel White.
Steve Urkel from Family Matters.
Yeah.
What an icon, right? And
Oh, my
so
gosh.
we knew, but we did know that he was going to appear in Skeleton Crew because last year, May 2023, he visited the broadcast booth at an Edmonton Oilers game. They asked him, hey, what are you up to next? And here's what he had to say.
What do you got coming up? Where will people see you?
Oh, wow. I'm actually going to be in a new series on Disney Plus starring Jude Law called Skeleton Crew. Yeah, it's coming out in November, December, and it's part of the Star Wars universe. So that's a big change for me, man. I have to do 2 hours of makeup every day. I get to play a pirate.
He says he wears a lot of makeup and he plays a pirate. So, and as you can see in these photos, he definitely is a pirate of some sort, judging from that look. And he's hanging out with Vane.
Jimmy looks like, is it Steel from the Superman comics where Superman gets turned into a various, I don't know, he has that kind of look to me.
Or not Steel. I think
is
you're
it not
thinking
Steel?
of
Who am I thinking?
No, the Cyborg. Is who
Cyborg.
You're thinking of.
You're
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Sorry, not
yeah.
Steel. Cyborg.
Cut from the same cloth, really. They were all introduced in the Death of Superman comic books. Cyborg, Steel, Superboy.
Cyborg, yeah. Well, that's kind of what Jaleel White looks like here as Gunter.
Yeah, he's wearing a Star Wars-esque chest plate with a couple of Darth Vader-like buttons there that controls God knows what.
He's got a hose.
He's
coming out of
the
it.
hoses, and yeah, that's good news. So this is probably some like breathing apparatus similar to the respirator that Darth Vader uses. But why does Jaleel White? What's the name of his character?
Gunter.
Oh my God, is he a Lobot? It looks like he's got some Lobot earwear there.
He's got the Lobot cans going on here.
He might be a Lobot. So move over, Lobot. Here comes Urkel.
And he's got like the Star Wars equivalent of an eye patch So this is, or maybe this is a targeting device, or I don't know if he's just got this is to help him see, if this is, Geordie LaForge. What do we got going on? But
yeah. Lobot cybernetics. Like, I bet Lobot had one of those. They're like clip-on devices you put on your headset, and it covers your eye. He probably had that like in a drawer in his nightstand or something, just in case he needed it.
Just off camera.
So yeah, he's with the pirate vein, and then Urkel, and then Wolfman.
Brutus.
Wolfman is there. What's his name?
His name is Brutus.
You know, that's the name of, that's from Popeye, actually.
Sure is.
The original, I mean, we called him Bluto when we saw the Popeye cartoons, but in the old newspaper comic strips, he was known as Brutus. Also in the comic books, he was Brutus.
Right.
The cartoons, he was Bluto. And also, I think the Popeye video game from 1980, he was Bluto.
I had that on ColecoVision.
But Brutus now showing up in Star Wars, and it's that name for me that works within the realms of the Star Wars universe. I think we're long overdue to have a Brutus, especially if it's a Wolfman with red eyes,
God, I love that.
Pirate / bounty hunter, who knows? And look at the old style. He has 3 revolvers strapped to his chest. We assume they're blasters. But they have that old school curved handle.
Yeah, very Western.
It's like even before that, though. It's
like more like revolutionary times kind of thing.
Like,
yeah.
Right. You know, it like a musket if it was a blaster. I don't know. But,
musket blaster.
But that seems to be something consistent with a lot of these characters in these 2 stills that we have from the show. So this is a cool look at these characters. I hope action figures are forthcoming. I hope they don't cost $25 flipping dollars, Hasbro. You bend us over the barrel.
Well, there was a time, Jim, when a new Star Wars project that featured a gallery of characters like this, you knew you'd get. There was a time when you knew you're going to get all these guys. You're going to get them all. Now, the way it is, it's like you'd be lucky if you get one of these guys. Really?
It's a no-brainer, if you ask me. There's legions of Star Wars collectors, and you're leaving money on the table by not continuing to service that area of fandom. And I don't understand what's going on between Lucasfilm and Hasbro with their ineptitude as far as keeping the action figure hobby alive. They want us all to buy those large-size Black Series figures because they cost double the price of the smaller figures.
Not these days. When you're looking at a $25
true
3 3/4 inch, it's all over the map. There's no, it's crazy. Here's a a re-yees.
I think that's how they came up with his name.
I think so. But look at him. He's got an eye patch. He's missing one of his 3 eyes.
Wow. he's not seeing things in triplicate, and that's very bad for a Gran.
Yeah. This guy's name is Pax, by the way. Pax
with the patch.
Yeah.
So, okay. But yes, I would like to see action figures of these characters. I don't think it's that big of a request to make. I'm sure you guys would make money off of it. I just don't get it. You guys do pre-orders, and then you leave so many people in the dust who don't get to sign up for the pre-orders because you shut them down so fast. Pre-order window is open 1 hour later. Pre-order window is closed. It's like, well, wait a second. These are pre-orders. Don't you want to use that as a device to measure demand for the actual product? If you're leaving people in the dust, what are you doing?
I got an idea. And I don't know why they haven't done this yet. I'm sure there's a reason. But, they like to do this crowdfunding stuff. Hasbro Pulse. Jim, you've gotten a few items. I've gotten a couple of items from the Pulse. Why not do a whole wave of action figures? Forget the vehicle once. Do a whole wave of action figures as a Hasbro Pulse. That way you know whether or not there's enough people that want them. Can you imagine if you just offered all these guys as a Hasbro Pulse, I would do it. I would jump in. I don't know why they feel the need that it has to be some massive vehicle when really the majority of us just want to expand our collection of figures.
I've always supported the idea of a subscription service for the new, and you have a window of time where you can accept or decline. But I think that would be the way to do it, a subscription service. If you do this as a Hasbro Pulse, we'll be looking back at the days of $25 3.75-inch action figures with fondness.
Oh,
because
no.
all of a sudden, if they did it that way, they'd be charging $50 a figure.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they're bending us over the barrel. It's price gouging. And Hasbro knows exactly what they're doing. But yet they're so stupid, they keep leaving so much money at the table by not satisfying a massive percentage of the actual people who will buy this stuff. People like me. Because you make it inaccessible.
There is hope.
With crappy production runs.
There is hope, because for the longest time, toy companies swore by their market research that they swore that the majority of buyers of toys were kids and gift givers. And it's just been within the last year that they've admitted, I think this has been the truth for years, but they finally admitted that the majority of action figure buyers are adult collectors. It seems very obvious to us, but they kept saying, no, we gotta, it's gotta have action features and all this because of the kids. We're like, I'm sorry, I'm in the toy aisles. I don't see kids. On occasion, you'll see it, but very rarely, it's always people that look a lot like me in those toy aisles of Target and Walmart buying these figures. And so I'm hoping that now that they're admitting this, that they will hopefully right the ship and just produce stuff that is for their target audience, which should be now adult collectors. For good, bad, indifferent, who cares? The reality is that's who is buying this stuff.
The baseball card companies all pivoted to a mature collecting audience way back in the 80s. And that made the entire industry explode.
Yeah.
Why haven't toy manufacturers who satisfy an adult collecting demographic focused on that adult collecting demographic until now? It's really absurd. I mean, we were hearing that just 3 years ago. Well, it's only kids who buy toys. I don't think so. So. Do better market research. Well, our research says, no. Do better market research. Who are you asking? And also out of touch. It's kind of a balancing act between Lucasfilm and Hasbro, because Lucasfilm has Hasbro by the short hairs. And they can't do anything without Lucasfilm approval. And Lucasfilm has very whacked marketing ideas these days. That's why a lot of their projects have failed. And that's why their toy lines are not as successful as they should be, is because Lucasfilm has whacked out marketing ideas these days. Inconsistent and lame. That's all I can say. Out of touch.
We've got one more character here, and you kind of just see about half the face. This is Chalt. It's Chaelt, played by Dale Soules. So that's the last character here in this lineup of pirates from Skeleton Crew. This is a pretty cool lineup of characters.
Can I just say, I don't want an action figure of Chelt. No, that character looks like an Uber driver. I don't need it. No offense to Uber drivers. I mean,
a little plain, right? A little plain. Not all that exciting.
I don't know what I'm looking at when I look at Chelt, but it doesn't necessarily excite me in the slightest.
So this piece does. We do have some quotes in this from Christopher Ford. You know, of course, the show's created by John Watts and Christopher Ford. Talking about these characters. These are pirates, says Ford. Space pirates. And not just any space pirates, but that is none other than Urkel himself, Jaleel White. Admittedly, here, according to this article, looking like vaguely like cyborg-esque as Gunter. And we did the rundown of the characters. Of course, Vane, who we've met. And all of these characters are, part of this whole scum and villainy type of character. He talks about, this is, again, Ford. He says, pirates are talked about so much in Star Wars. People would call Han Solo a pirate. He'd be like, how dare you? And we've seen some awesome pirates in the animated shows. I mean, Han calls, Lando calls Han.
Lando calls him that.
Yes.
You old
pirate.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was so derogatory, but I can kind of see it that way now.
Right. Well, sure. When you look at Urkel and Vane and this Chalt guy.
Yeah. Han Solo does not want to be lumped in with this bunch of ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah. When you say pirate, you know what he's thinking? Han is thinking this guy right here, Chalt. Like, what are you calling a pirate?
Chalt. He might rival the Mog fan club for popularity.
But Ford said, not that Ford, our Ford, the showrunner, the creator,
Ford,
Christopher Ford. He says, and we've seen some awesome pirates in the animated shows. So this was something where both Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau were really excited to do more pirate stuff. So these pirates, Jim, seem like they're going to be a major fixture. I look at these guys as probably on the heels of our heroes throughout the series. That would be my guess.
Yeah. These guys could be the main antagonists, and they would be representing that that Shard character from The Mandalorian, right? They all worked for him. He looked like
like Barbossa,
mossy.
right? He was mossy. Yeah. He looked like kind of like I think it was Barbossa in the Pirates of the Caribbean. But yeah, the big mossy guy.
Yeah, mossy man. So I think they all represent him. So he might be like the main bad guy, and all these other guys are antagonists, real thorns in the heels of our heroes. So it looks good to me, though. I mean, I get mad Star Wars vibes looking at this rogues gallery here. They and their environment and the lighting and everything just speaks Star Wars to me. Might be a little too dark, but I'm not going to nitpick already. The show hasn't been released yet. Wait for the after show.
And we've got another photo here of our hero, Jude Law.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's his name? I don't have his name.
Jod. Okay, his name is Jod. Barada Jada. What is his name? I forget his name. Jodnad, son of a Jod. He's Jod.
I don't have it.
No, I don't either.
It's not even in the article.
Nod Jod.
Jodna Nawwood. Jodna.
That's what I said.
Yep, you got it.
So you in this photo from Entertainment Weekly, you see him and he's looking off into the horizon at something, and you see in the background the kids who the story is going to be focused on. These kids who get lost in another galaxy, and it looks like Jude Law is shopping at the same tailor that Lando Calrissian shops at. That's a very Lando type shirt he's wearing, don't you think? Doesn't it look like a shirt Lando was wearing?
I think it is Lando's shirt. I mean, it doesn't even look like it. I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's right out.
So I mean, like
Empire.
Lando Calrissian wears Han Solo's clothes, and Jodnad Norwood wears Lando's clothes, or whatever his name is, Norwood, whatever. But you see, he also has that curved handle pistol, the blaster that resembles an old antique vintage handgun with a flintlock pistol and the wooden handle. It's with that curve. It's very old school, like something you would find 100-something years ago, looking back at the early days of hand, firearms and stuff. So, Jada Norwood. So, I mean, what does that tell you, though? Maybe the galaxy they end up in is a little less advanced than the Star Wars galaxy
it does
that we
seem
know of.
antique-y. Like, even in the context of Star Wars, there's an antique-y vibe to this blaster.
Yeah.
Signifying old. So I'm with you. If that's not the case, it seems strange because it's as our buddy Paul Bateman would say, a little off model. We haven't seen that type of handle. So like what you're saying, Jim, like there's got to be an explanation, an in-universe explanation.
Possibly. Maybe they end up in some other part of the galaxy, remote and a little bit behind the times. I'm not sure. When you look at Urkel, though, he's decked out in some pretty hardcore technology. So,
no doubt.
Hard to say.
Doubt.
I mean, Star Wars did happen a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So to really apply any sense of dates on a timeline at the end of the day is a futile effort. Yeah. You got the early days, you got the later days, you got these days, those days. It all happened a long time ago, though. I mean, how are we supposed to really measure that? So.
Well, it's funny that just last week, we've got this on YouTube. So if you haven't listened to the show, you can go over to YouTube and check it out. We got a video up because a listener had sent in some photos, some scans of an old high school yearbook that featured Dave Filoni. Dave C. Filoni, his senior yearbook. And in one of those photos, there was a picture of Dave Filoni as a goalie in a hockey game. And
that's right, yeah.
Funny enough, Watts talks about how Dave is their goalkeeper. He says, what's great about working at Lucasfilm is that they'll let you know if you've gone outside the boundaries. Dave Filoni is our goalkeeper. He actually is a great hockey player, but he's also a figurative goal player. We'll come up with ideas of things that we like, and then he'll be like, actually, maybe it's this, or, oh, we already did something like that somewhere else. And you always end up with a bunch of other episodes of Star Wars to go watch and things to go read. So Dave gives them homework. Not only is the goalkeeper, but he's also the teacher that gives you the homework. He says you feel like you can safely explore things creatively without making huge canonical mistakes. And he gets both sides of that because he did that same kind of mentoring under George Lucas. So he gets that kind of thing. I want to make a whole new kind of a Jedi, and then someone being like, okay, hold on. A lot of people have thought about this, so let's do it the right way.
Right.
So Dave's been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, so he's the goalkeeper for that.
Very true. And it kind of shines a little insight on the Lucasfilm decision 10 years ago to abolish the old expanded universe and start fresh with canon. Because imagine the minefield that Dave Filoni would have to navigate if it was going back all the way through the beginning of the expanded universe, which really officially began with the first Timothy Zahn novel, the Heir to the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
That's really when the modern age of canon kicked off. And George Lucas always made it very clear that there is a very thick line between the published canon and his canon.
Mm-hmm.
It can be cherry-picked from, but it shouldn't be considered to be gospel, the gospel according to George. And then with Lucasfilm blowing up the expanded universe, which shocked a lot of people and rocked a lot of people's worlds, it would have really been an impossible minefield to navigate through for a guy like Dave Filoni, who is now pretty much the arbiter of all Star Wars canon. That's the position Dave is in right now. And sure, he taps the story group and all of that stuff when he has hardcore questions, but it all gets filtered through Filoni now. And so it's kind of cool to hear that the Skeleton Crew creators are discussing that openly, because we know this show was shot a few years ago and has been delayed, and it went through production issues and everything. Maybe one of those production issues was Dave Filoni's appointment to creative control of all Star Wars storytelling. Maybe that's what put the Skeleton Crew on a little bit of a reset, so it could go through the Dave Filoni filter first. The timeline kind of matches up.
Filter. I like that.
Yeah, the Filoni filter. So that's what we might be dealing with here, as far as why Skeleton Crew got delayed. But I'm excited that it's going to be hitting us in a couple of months. I'm excited for the after shows, and I always relish the opportunity to get fresh Star Wars live action storytelling, because that's what it's all about.
All right. Looks like, Jim, we've got some news here about the Rey film and filmmaker Stephen Knight. What's the latest here?
All right, the latest comes to us from a Stephen Knight appearance on the BBC show Desert Island Discs, where it's part interview and part music discussion. And this comes to us thanks to a tip from RFR listener Adil. And he mentions to us that Stephen talks briefly about the Star Wars Rey film he is currently writing. So let's throw it to Stephen Knight.
I'm not allowed to talk about any specifics. It's a new departure, which is why I took it. And also what helps is it's a nice big budget to work with, so you can do what you want to do on the page.
Okay.
All right. Not
so
much
he's
there.
not saying much.
No.
He's not saying much, but he did say a couple of things there in that 11 seconds that we should pick apart. Number one, he says it's a reset. It's a fresh take on Star Wars.
Wow.
Not reliant on what's happened in the past. It sounds like they're building a foundation for a new story. Now, of course, the past will always come into play. When you're dealing with a character like Rey, we had a whole sequel trilogy with her.
Right.
But the motivations and events of that sequel trilogy will not necessarily be the thing that pushes this story forward. I mean, maybe other than just the fact that audiences understand and know who Rey is, moving forward, it could be something that's very, very detached from the Star Wars storytelling we've had via the films, via the trilogies. So I think a fresh start is good. I think Lucasfilm is dying for a fresh start. I think a lot of the fan base is really anxious for a fresh start. As long as it's still steeped within the mythology itself, but builds a new story going forward, I think there's a lot of blue sky. So that's Stephen Knight's take. He also mentions a huge budget.
Yeah.
There's always a lot of talk about how Disney's tamping down on this and, the big budget, over-bloated things. And, of course, we know The Acolyte was fueled by a $180 million estimated budget and didn't really pay off the way the studios wanted it to. So you'd imagine there's some trepidation, but it sounds like they're going to go whole hog into this Rey film and give it the budget to create the type of Star Wars epic that we are accustomed to. So that's kind of a good sign. There's still some mystery about the Rey film as far as why it hasn't gone in front of cameras yet. The most recent Daisy Ridley interviews, she's claiming she has not read the script yet, and we haven't heard a peep from Charmin Obaid-Chinoy since she made that infamous CNN appearance at the beginning of the year on New Year's Eve. She's been absolutely silent. So some fans have been speculating maybe the Rey film isn't happening. We know the Rey film is probably targeted for a December 2026 release date. So if that's the case, it better get in front of cameras very soon. And an RFR source revealed to us that the film may be gearing up to go in front of cameras this fall. I know that hasn't been reported anywhere. That's what somebody told me and Jason this week, and we're just passing it along to you guys. So it appears this Rey film, episode 10, New Jedi Order, whatever you want to call it, it appears that it is moving forward. And whatever trepidation you may have had about it, based on the uphill struggle this film has gone through throughout pre-production and the whole development process, it appears that it is going to move forward. So I would expect it, if it goes in front of cameras this fall, I fully expect it to be in theaters December 2026.
All right. Well, there's your Ray update. Moving on to follow up from last week. We knew this was happening. We were all excited about Ewan McGregor. We're all fans of Ewan McGregor, of course, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's our Obi-Wan. And got the Hollywood treatment with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You would think somebody like Ewan McGregor, that's already happened for him, but nope. It all happened last week. And of all people, to help bring in the occasion, celebrate with him, his on-screen and off-screen protege, his Padawan, Hayden Christensen there. And Jim, we've been chronicling this, as we call it, Jedi bromance for a long time. And, of course, their reunion with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and Ewan's occasional appearances at celebrations and fan conventions and things like that, along with Hayden. They're interacting a heck of a lot more, but clearly these guys are very, very close and think very, very highly and well of one another.
Oh, absolutely. And Hayden Christensen was among a couple of speakers that were there for the ceremony as Ewan McGregor received his Hollywood Walk of Fame star.
When I think about Ewan, I think about the person that he is. And a lot of stories come to mind, but I often think about the first time that I met you. And we were both in Australia many moons ago, getting ready to do Star Wars Episode 2. And I was at the studio where we were going to be filming, and the producer was taking me around, showing me some things. And then he was going to go take me to meet Ewan for the first time. And, I was so excited. I was already such a huge fan of his. And so anyways, I walk into this room where I'm told Ewan's going to be, and before I can even put eyes on him, I hear his voice, and he exclaims my name with more enthusiasm than I think I'd ever heard it spoken with before. And I turn and I see him, and then he's coming at me, and he comes and just gives me the biggest hug, like just the most disarmingly warm embrace. And we start chatting, and he's just the nicest person. He's telling me how excited he is to be working together and how much fun we're going to have doing our lightsaber training, and he's just beyond kind to me. And it was immediately apparent to me that I was meeting someone truly special, and not just as an actor, but as a person, and that I was meeting a friend. A friend who would later go on to chop off both of my legs and leave me for dead on the side of a volcano, but I guess I kind of had that coming.
He had it coming.
He had it coming. He had it coming. Yeah, wow. That's great. I mean, you think about, Jim, if I tell you what, if I ever get a star on the Walk of Fame, I want you to be the guy that gets to induct me. We were talking about this last week about, is this an induction? I don't know what it is, a commemoration, but it feels kind of like an induction in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's really kind of you, Jason.
Fame, I guess, right? In a way.
I think maybe someday you will get that star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. And it would be an honor for me to be there at the ceremony and say kind things about you. And when I get my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, well, naturally, I would want Pete Nadel there to be there to say kind words about me. I mean,
well, that's a deep cut these days. That's a deep cut. You know what, though? I honestly, look, I'll be satisfied if we can just have a little display. Someday there's going to be a podcast Hall of Fame. It's going to happen at some point. It's going to. And I'll just be happy to have just a little glass case. Maybe with this microphone, and Jim, maybe your microphone or your headphones or something. just in there. I
Yes.
think that would be nice.
It could happen when we're in our 90s.
Whoa.
And they'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, the longevity award goes to. Can you believe these two guys are still talking about Star
I don't
Wars?
want to be the Frankie Valley of podcasting. If you've seen any of those viral videos of old Frankie, man. Wow, talk about Weekend at Bernie's. Dang.
We were sharing them at Fan Expo Chicago with Baby Belushi, and
Is that right?
The commentary was priceless.
But God bless his cotton socks, the great Frankie Valley. But man, oh man. So you don't want to overstay your welcome, but certainly Ewan McGregor hasn't overstayed his. And but it's just fun for us as Star Wars fans. It's a kick, to think about the prequel trilogy and the drama surrounding it, the drama surrounding the character of Anakin Skywalker as he unfolded with two different actors across that trilogy, and then all these years later to see them loved and embraced, and see the friendship between the two of them. Is really special. I mean, Ewan's done a lot of big projects, and he's been a working actor for a long time and worked with a lot of big stars. Not to take anything away from Hayden Christensen, I love Hayden, but Hayden hasn't had the career of a Renee Zellweger or, some of these other actors. You think about the long list of actors and actresses that that Ewan has been with in movies. But the fact that, he chose Hayden to be the guy to get up there and give him this, or recommend Hayden at some point. It was, I don't know how the behind the scenes works, but I just think it's awesome that it was Hayden. I
do a little bit. Yeah, I know that Lucasfilm and Disney did a lot to sponsor this kind of event.
I see. Okay, so this was maybe orchestrated a bit. And
maybe
used
a little bit, but I mean, the friendship between the two guys is very apparent and very obvious. It's very palpable. So you'll hear in this next clip where Hayden continues talking about Ewan, and he focuses specifically on what Ewan McGregor brought to the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, a role that, I mean, those are big shoes to fill. Sir Alec Guinness, and a very iconic performance in the original Star Wars. Well, now Ewan McGregor is playing a young version of him, and it seemed to be accepted by fans and critics alike, just really amplifying the great talent of Ewan McGregor. So Hayden talks a little bit about what Ewan brings to the role.
But I do want to just talk for a moment about Ewan's work in Star Wars and his iconic performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi. It really is just a masterclass in great acting, and to watch him embody this character, it's like watching magic, and the best kind of magic, not the kind that involves any like trickery or sleight of hand, but the kind that really makes you believe in something bigger, because he wasn't just playing Obi-Wan, he was Obi-Wan. I mean, he is Obi-Wan. And I really hope we get more Obi-Wan, because this man is just Star Wars gold. But, he so perfectly brought all of the sort of qualities that we knew about the character while imbuing the role with his own depth and emotion, and thus creating something that was bigger than the sum of its parts. And it was just a remarkable feat, and I was just in awe the entire time. So, my friend Ewan, I want to thank you for being the best Jedi Master that anyone could have ever hoped for. And you always had my back, and I thank you for that. And I'm just so happy to get to be here with you right now, and it's been an honor and a thrill to get to work with you and swing a lightsaber with you, and more than all of it, call you my friend. Yeah. I love you, brother.
I love you too.
Oh,
pure bromance.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at those two. Get a room, you guys. Get a room.
It's nice. I like it.
it's wonderful, and it's gosh, you think about 2002. Wow, 23 years ago. 23 years ago, these guys debuted together as Anakin and Obi-Wan, and I still never forget that feeling of seeing them in that elevator shaft, riding up into Padme's apartment. You're sweating, all of that. It was like, okay, wow, we're finally seeing Anakin and Obi-Wan together. I mean, not that Jake Lloyd, but he was a kid. That's not what I didn't spend, all those years from 1983 to 1999 or 2002 thinking about Obi-Wan with an 8-year-old Anakin. I thought of them as these swashbuckling Jedi Knights, making the world safe, making the galaxy safe, and all of that. So that scene when you first see the two of them together, I'll always think very fondly about that, because it's like, wow, I've been fantasizing about this for a long time.
And I think Ewan McGregor has been fantasizing about a Kenobi season 2. And we heard Hayden drop out a little bit of, lobbying, throwing it out there, certainly should come back. I am fully convinced at this point that Lucasfilm has a Kenobi project in development right now as we speak. I don't,
really?
Yes, I'm fully convinced of that right now. As a result of this appearance at the Hollywood Walk of Fame and Hayden giving it a shout out like that. And sheer promotion of Ewan McGregor's attachment to the character, contributions to Star Wars. It's all adding up to me. I bet before the year is over or early 2025 at the latest, we'll be getting confirmation of Kenobi season 2. I mean, they got to be stupid not to do it.
I got a Blu-ray or a 4K box set in here that says that it's the complete series.
Well, maybe they'll give it a different name. Maybe they won't call it Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Maybe they'll call it, I don't know.
Destiny of the Force.
Yeah, something like that. The Hermit Jedi.
The Hermit Jedi.
Yeah. I know that doesn't really fire me up.
Who cares what the packaging on the disc says?
Exactly.
They don't need to be beholden to that.
Exactly.
But,
So Ewan finally got behind the podium, stepped up to the microphone, and he thanked the crowd and pointed out he has a very famous Star Wars neighbor right next to his star.
I want to thank everybody, all of you, for coming today. I had absolutely no idea what it would feel like or what it would mean, but it's meaning a great deal, and it feels very, very nice and very, feel very touched by the whole thing. I'm so moved that I'm close to my old friend Carrie Fisher on the pavement here. That means a great deal to me too.
So oh boy. Well, I hope he knows what it's like to live next to Carrie. It gets wild, man. It gets
Be careful what you wish for. So, but that's pretty cool. So if you're
very cool.
in Hollywood and you're checking out the Walk of Fame, and you're a Star Wars fan, you'll find it very easy to find both Carrie Fisher and Ewan McGregor right
that's
next to
something
each other.
I've never done. I've only been in L.A., Hollywood twice, once for a celebration and then once for the Rogue One premiere with you, Jimmy Mack. So I've never, that was a world. Remember going in for that Rogue One premiere?
Sure,
I mean, it was and out, man. It was fly in, fly out. But it was so much fun. We stayed at Kyle's house, and but I've never had the chance to like do it up, all the touristy stuff in Hollywood and see the Mann's Chinese Theater and the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I'd love to do that sometime. I want to go see the footprints, all of that.
Yeah. It's fun to take a hike through Hollywood. I used to work there. I used to live right outside Hollywood in Toluca Lake, and I worked in downtown Hollywood at Highland and Yucca. And I'm very familiar with the Walk of Fame. And
Yeah.
except when I was working there, it was in the early 90s, and Hollywood wasn't the easiest place to walk. Let's just say a lot of colorful characters out on the sidewalks and stuff. Once they built that Dolby Theater, the whole neighborhood really rose up to a whole different level. But before that, Hollywood was a dicey place, to say the least. Yeah, it sure was. When I was there in the 90s. And let me tell you, I had a lot of fun there. So, but let's just wrap up the Ewan McGregor Hollywood Walk of Fame highlights with Ewan professing his love for the occupation of acting and his love for film in general.
I can't believe it's been my home here since 2008, Los Angeles, but longer than that, really, because I dreamt of it. I dreamt of the movies, and I'm so blessed to be in them. I don't feel any differently about being in them than I did when I was first starting out. I used to sit and watch when I was a child on a Sunday or Saturday afternoon with my chin propped up on my elbows, and I hunger for old Hollywood movies of the 40s and the 30s and British movies, Ealing comedies, just anything. All these, I wanted movies in my life more than I wanted kids' shows or anything like that from a really young age. And I'm just so happy to be part of the world. I'm happy to be a creative person, happy to be an artist, and I love it very much. And I love you all very much too. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah, Ewan McGregor, interesting. You know, he does have that movie star quality. You know, that's not true of just any actor that's in film. It's a special something, and I feel like Ewan McGregor has it. And I think a lot of times it's in those performers, those actors that really have a passion for the whole idea of making movies. They're kind of grounded in classic cinema and things like that. I think what happens is that they know what movie stars meant to them as kids growing up, and I think they sort of embody that. It's so different than that sort of pretentious thing that you hear, you know, actors talking about the craft, you know, stuff like that. I like when actors get up and they talk about making movies or making theater and doing that, and don't take themselves too serious. Leave the craft talk for your college class. I don't want to hear about the craft.
Well, despite his worldwide fame and long career at this point, Ewan comes off as a guy who really has his feet on the ground.
Yeah,
and he's not some pretentious Hollywood what.
Yeah,
he definitely keeps his entire persona steeped in reality and doesn't forget that. And on top of that, he's one of the coolest dudes around. Extremely good-looking guy. And
how does he keep up the youth? He looks no different than he did 20 years ago. It's incredible. What is this guy doing?
Like I say, he's keeping his feet on the ground. He's not getting sucked up by all the pretentious self-indulgence that stardom provides.
Yeah.
That's the easy path. That's the dark side. He walks on the light side. And he just seems like a really great guy. And like I said, he's got the acting chops to back it all up. So that's Ewan McGregor. And I'm happy we were able to share those highlights with our RFR audience of a thing that I think it was an achievement for Ewan. I don't think the honor was anything that he shrugged off. I think he really appreciated the appreciation that was being shown toward him and his career.
No doubt.
So
no doubt.
Another guy who's got a career is all over the place, Donald Glover. And I mean, what can't he do? Comedy, rapping, dramatic acting. He's got it all going on. And so he's out promoting his final tour, his Childish Gambino, and he's got a new album, Bando Stone in the New World. Bando sounds suspiciously familiar. Kind of sounds like Lando to me. My head's always in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so he sat down with Wall Street Journal magazine on their YouTube channel, and the subject of the Lando film, which, like the Rey film, some fans were getting skeptical about it. Hey, we haven't heard any updates on the Lando film for about a year now. The last update we got was from Justin Simeon, who was formerly on the project, director Justin Simeon, who most recently did the Haunted Mansion. He did some other thing, too, recently that was rather well acclaimed. I can't think of what it is right now off the top of my head, but he was on the Lando project, then stripped away from the Lando project, and we learned that Donald Glover's brother was developing the Lando movie with Donald. And so he talked to Wall Street Journal about what it's like to work with his brother and the good vibes that provides.
I know there's bad things that come along with working with family and money and all this. They say you don't mix, but I have nothing to say other than, like, I guess I'm just really lucky. I get to work with, like, a best friend all the time, and it's fun. And when we hang out, we work. Like, that's the best part. It's like, well, I'll go visit his, like, kids and, like, we'll hang out. But we end up talking about Lando and, like, breaking a story or something like that, which is, like, what else would you want to be able to hang out with your friend and be like, oh, we're actually doing work, too.
So, yeah. It's just hanging out for Donald Glover.
Right.
Being creative in developing a film story. Oh, that's just hanging out with his brother. His brother, Stephen Glover, by the way. I meant to say.
Oh, I thought it was Savion.
What's his name?
Savion? No,
Savion?
That's a different Glover. That's the tap.
Oh, I do
Glover.
not follow. But
okay.
But Donald Glover, once he brought up Lando, Wall Street Journal, their interviewer saw the opportunity.
They pounced.
Yeah, he brought it up. So
Right.
they asked him what he wants to bring to the Lando movie.
I just want it to be fun. Like, as a Star Wars fan myself, like, I think it's important that there just needs to be more fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening. And those are the only things that connect us, weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment. And I just feel like we're lacking in that department. Star Wars, I love it. But sometimes it'd be super serious. Sometimes it'd be like way too serious. And it's like everything that has to do with the Skywalker is like so serious.
Yeah. You know what? I really agree with him here. I got to say, I agree with Donald that sometimes we do tend to take it serious, maybe too seriously. Now, here's the thing, though. It depends on what he means by that. Because do we take it too serious in universe and the story, or do we take it too serious as fans because we expect it to be really great? So it depends on what angle he's coming in at this. I don't think that it's wrong for us as fans to expect greatness and expect fantastic storytelling, stuff that just transports us to another place, another galaxy. But within the universe, especially for those that really want Star Wars to be super mature, super adult, super serious, that's where I agree with him. I think there's a time and place. Andor, phenomenal, great that it is a more of a serious tone. But I think that it still counters with action adventure and whatnot. But I do think in general, Star Wars should be fun, and it should be hopeful and joyful and all of that. So that's the angle he's coming at it. I'm with him.
Well, I'd like to present a different angle, one that I interpreted from his comments, and I'll tell you what that is. I think Donald is directly responding to his experience working with Lucasfilm as a creative, where he wants to have fun with it, but Lucasfilm is too busy chasing an agenda or a current trend or whatever's hot in Hollywood.
Okay.
And judging by what like consultants say and analysts say, bean counters.
Right.
And he wants to just be creative and present a fun Lando film that provides the audience with a sense of escapism to get away. He brings up all the current issues that are flying around us all the time. And yeah, they are serious. And yeah, it does mold us in a certain way as we get just knocked upside the head by a lot of current events happening in the world. He wants to provide us with a fun, escapist opportunity based in the Star Wars universe. And guess what? That's the thing that motivated George Lucas back in the 70s, too. He wanted a departure from all the raw, gritty, serious filmmaking of the mid-70s and the post-Vietnam era. George wanted to provide an escape, something families could all go to and enjoy in the movie theaters without being knocked upside the head with current, agendas or trends.
I like that take. I like that take a lot.
That's my take. And that's why I think the Lando film has been getting delayed for so long.
Yeah.
Is because of this creative difference between Donald Glover and the studio.
Very
And now
interesting.
Donald has brought his brother in, and between the two of them, they're going to hang out and have the time of their lives breaking the Lando story. And I hope that enthusiasm comes through in the finished project.
I was worried that it was not an attack, but a commentary on fandom. That's what I was worried about, that it was about, you people take this too seriously. That's where I thought it was coming from. But I like your take, that it could be about the creative conflict that might be happening there within the company.
From what I can tell, Donald Glover is a man who marches to the beat of his own drum, or drum machine, as it would be.
Right.
But so Donald Glover, he does continue to talk a little bit about the appeal of Lando to him. What appeals about the character to him?
Lando, I think the best part about him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel like that people can relate to that. And he's probably like, man, this war is like whack. I need money, which I feel everyone can relate to. So I want to just bring fun to Star Wars. I just want it to be fun.
Yeah, well said. Like, who can argue with that?
Yeah.
I just want it to be fun. It's fun.
Donald Glover.
I mean, it's no small thing. Jim, it's no small thing when you had a moment to meet the maker himself and ask the question of what brings you back? Why do you keep coming back to Star Wars? And his answer was, literally, just fun.
Yeah, that's right. And he looked at me like, what a dumb question. Don't you know how much fun Star Wars is?
Right.
Well, maybe the studio needs a refresher on that. And maybe Donald Glover is the guy to present that refresher to them. So all of a sudden I find myself feeling a little more enthusiastic about a Lando film.
Yeah, me too.
Which I wasn't really feeling before. All right, one last thing.
Yeah.
If we can get into it.
Let's do it.
There was some info revealed about what the next Star Wars Jedi game with Cal Kestis is going to be.
Did you
I
hear,
know. I
folks?
always trip over the name.
He was very deliberate in how he. What do they say? You normally say Ketsis?
Ketsis.
Okay.
Pass the Ketsis. But just this week, Entertainment Arts, the company that's behind the making of those games, along with the studio Respawn, they had their big, investor relations day. This is becoming a common occurrence for us fans of Star Wars to have these studios and companies having their big investor day presentation, And so EA had that earlier this week on Tuesday. And the president of EA Entertainment and Technology, Laura Miele, she went on stage and gave us this brief update on what's up for the next Star Wars Jedi game. Of course, we've had Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, It's been those are extremely successful games, and Laura is going to tell us how extremely successful they are in this update for investors.
We have delivered some of the highest quality and best-selling Star Wars games of all time, with over $5 billion in net bookings. This impressive track record includes, of course, the Star Wars Jedi games, where over 40 million Star Wars fans have connected with Cal Kestis and his arc of becoming a powerful Jedi. Respawn is working hard to bring the final chapter of this thrilling story to players.
Ooh, the final chapter. So
the final chapter. They're going to wrap it up. They're going to wrap up the story of Cal Kestis.
Look what you people have done to him. Look at that. This is a trained broadcaster who now is insecure every time he says Kestis. Hope you're happy.
Clatsis.
You've broken him.
But let's think about these numbers before we get into the fact that it is going to be the final chapter. But, well, I mean, we've already got into that. But let's think about these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
She said 40 million Star Wars fans have played Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, 2 games. And that has brought in, what did she say?
It was billions.
It was like $5 billion. I mean, that's absurd.
Yeah.
So to put it in perspective, 40 million players of these 2 games compared to the latest Star Wars video game release, which is Star Wars Outlaws. That has, by professional estimates and accounts, has brought in 1 million players. So 40 million compared to 1 million. Now, granted, Outlaws has only been out for like a month, but it's not, people aren't knocking down the doors to play. I'll tell you why I haven't played Star Wars Outlaws yet is because I'm still playing Jedi Survivor. I mean, I'm at like 120 hours into this game. My God. Like most people complete it in like 25 hours or something. I'm at like 5 times that. You know why? Because I leave no stone unturned. Every sector of the environment I'm going through has to be 100% explored. Yeah. All of the crates need to be opened. All the bonuses need to be found. All the rumors and mysteries need to be solved. And I'll be doing this until...
Boy, you play like my son plays. We would play the Star Wars, the Lego games. Every side quest. I mean, he was so in the Lego games, you get the studs. He had to get every stud. I mean, he was so thorough. The way he played. Yeah. He didn't care how long it took him. Yeah.
That's my preferred way to play it because these developers and programmers worked so hard for so long to create all of these different experiences for you within the game.
Yeah.
That I don't think I'm not in any race to see the end credits. Let's just say I'm gonna take full advantage of every gaming opportunity I can within these massively programmed games with these incredibly dense and complex environments. I love every minute of it. And then when I'm done, I'll move on to Star Wars Outlaws. And by all accounts I've received so far, I think people are loving Star Wars Outlaws. So I'm really looking forward to playing that game as well.
Jim, they gotta be thinking with those numbers surrounding the 2 releases, and I'm sure that the third and what's going to wrap up the trilogy is going to be no exception. They've got to be thinking that there could be some potential for this character to cross over into live action and maybe have his own series or film or trilogy. They've really stopped short, as successful as The Force Unleashed was. KOTOR, we're still waiting on a film or television adaptation of that. So they've been reluctant to adapt video game content into live action or even animation. But this one feels like maybe that it could break through.
Yeah, and plus with Cameron Monaghan, he's a guy who seems like his career is rather thriving, I think.
Yeah.
It's not like he's some breakthrough major motion picture lead, but Maybe a Star Wars Jedi Survivor could promote him into that if done right via Lucasfilm. And that could be a whole new era. But we still don't know. Does he survive the third game? You know, his story hasn't been fully fleshed out in video games yet. So before we start making the jump to feature films, let's see what happens.
Good point.
Yeah, like it's like, you know, Jedi Graveyard or whatever the next game is going to be.
Yes, the funeral of Cal Kestis. That's what we'll see.
Hello, this is Warwick Davis, and you're listening to Rebel Force Radio, your source for the Force.
All right. Well, hey, we got a special guest joining us right now. She's waiting in the wings. We don't want to leave her waiting any longer. Sin, let's check in with her and talk about Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy.
Star Wars Cantina.
Where are you going, Master? For a drink?
Sorry about the mess. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. We must be cautious.
Sin.
Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to have you here. We've had you on before, but this time it's, you know, without Kyle, without the distraction of Kyle.
I know.
And so it's much better that way. We can focus, get to know each other.
It's hard to get a word in edgewise with him around.
Oh, have you noticed that?
Yes,
we love
indeed.
him. He has such a great sense of humor about things in himself. So we like to tease him around here, but we've known him for such a long time.
Yeah, he has to have a sense of humor about it, I think.
Well, it is wonderful to have you here. We finally have you by yourself, alone, not being held back by your better half there.
Right,
but first of all, congratulations on the new album. I have been following you on social media for a long time, and it's just been like drip, 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 you know, and finally here it is. It's out now. That's got to be an amazing feeling.
It is an amazing feeling. It's been literally years, so it's just the first half of the album, and the second half of the album will complete the first to the second, November 15th.
Oh, perfect.
So there's still more to come. I think I got all my Star Wars references out, though, in this first
All right,
half.
yeah, let's talk about that. Let's jump right in. I love that, Sin. You're just going to dive head first and get right to the Star Wars, because you know this is the Star Wars podcast. So let's talk about that. We played them last week. I don't know if you heard the review, but we played them on the show last.
Refresh me.
Refresh. Well, we thought they were cool, and we really enjoyed hearing them. The first one was the reference to Darth Vader.
Yeah, well, it's off of my song. The Darth Vader reference appears in my song, I Don't Care. And really, like, I Don't Care is just about, I had a villain in my life. I still kind of have a villain in my life. And so, you know, to get through it, we were making a lot of jokes when we wrote the song. And at one point, me and my co-writer looked at each other and we said, you can't force me, Darth Vader. And so it like showed up in the song, which I obviously, you know, I'll break it down. Like, obviously using the word force is like hilarious and punny, and so I'm so glad it had made an appearance in it, because, you know, it's like this Luke on his hero's journey and me on my hero's journey with my album Valley Girl. It's, you know, we're similar. So I was really glad I could compare my villain to Darth Vader.
We love the reference. And there's another reference on the album, but I'll get to that in a minute. What I want to know about your hero's journey and how you started off as a musician and what led you to Katy Perry and getting her attention. Everyone wants to know that story about you. Katy is like your Obi-Wan Kenobi in many ways.
No, low key. She seriously is. I always joke and call her my Perry godmother, and I'm Cinderella, because it really does feel like she plucked me from the obscurity of Tatooine and said, hey girl, like, I see you have a way with the Force and I want to help nurture that. And, you know, be a guide to you, a mentor to you, and my Jedi Master into this Hollywood dream, for lack of a better way to describe it. And yeah, so when I was in college, well, actually my whole life I've been recording music, even if just on, my laptop in my living room and putting it out on the internet. And eventually I gained the attention of some industry people just by networking online. I was like sending demos around, and somehow I managed to become friends with one of Katie's friends. And so my demos, floated across her email or whatever, and she invited me over, and I played some songs on the piano, and the rest is pop history.
Wow. And that's what's led us up to
Yeah.
Valley Girl, Lost on Laurel, side A.
That's right.
And
Yeah, that's
and the
right.
second Star Wars reference is, maybe it's even beyond Star Wars. It has to be, because you shout out Mark Hamill on a song. And we played a highlight of that
Yeah.
last week, and everyone loved it.
And the crowd goes wild when she walks in. Yeah, it's so my style to say hi, I'm Sim, but be cool about it. She lives next door to Mark Hamill.
How did a Mark Hamill name drop end up on your album?
Well, that song, it's called Be Like Her. I was thinking about, I was going through a hard time, and I was like, what are some qualities that would be of like the ideal version of the girl I want to be? And that girl just so happened she would be living next door to Mark Hamill. So in my mind, it's like that would mean making it like, next door is Mark Hamill. And I always have this like vision of a music video where I'm like walking by the house, and then I like look to my left, and it's Mark Hamill just casually picking up his paper with a coffee cup in hand and like waving over at me in the music video, and then like, cut to a different moment. But like, so that's just how I've always imagined it. And, it doesn't rhyme in the song when I say Mark Hamill. And I just kind of like took a creative chance there.
It works in the song.
In squeezing it in.
It doesn't always need to rhyme.
Yeah.
Now, you rhyme Darth Vader with hot potato. And so I think that
Yeah, that's
deserves
right.
you like Star Wars and Pop Culture Hall of Fame credentials.
I agree. Like every time I hear it, I'm like, no one else has ever done something like this.
I don't think so.
And-
Yeah.
That's what you call a forced rhyme. Get it? Force rhyme.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what? I did force it. I did force it. You're right.
Nothing wrong with that. The best lyricists do. You had an amazing compliment. Speaking of lyrics and writing songs, Katy Perry was quoted in Rolling Stone as calling you a savant songwriter. Savant. We're talking like
Wow, I
Rain
know.
Man,
Pretty crazy.
right? Rain Man was an autistic savant. It's just an extreme focus. And a unique singular talent. You talked about obviously putting things like Star Wars and chronicling your hero's journey, but what else inspires you as a songwriter, and when does that inspiration tend to hit you?
215 toothpicks. Oh, sorry. That was a shout out to Rain Man, Dustin Hoffman. Great performance.
Shout out, Dustin. I think that first of all, I can't believe Katie said that, and like it's really crazy to like be able to read that, and I'm really grateful for her. But the inspiration hits me when I think I'm in my extreme, like feeling extreme emotions, when I'm extremely happy, when I'm extremely sad, when I'm extremely frustrated. And I find that it's really hard to write when I'm in my equilibrium, which I don't know if that's a curse or what, but I think it's so much more exciting to express myself when I'm feeling emotions to the fullest. And I think that's when I feel that I can find the words, very clearly. And when I can describe things in maybe unique ways, when I'm having an emotional experience that really takes me to a higher level.
It does. Some songwriters, they can sort of, I keep using this word force, but they can sit down and they can say, I've got to write a song. And then other songwriters, they need that inspiration. They need that spark which category do you fall in? Are there moments when, because you're a professional, you have to do this. Are there moments when you go, I got to come up with something. I got to come up with a hook. I got to make something happen.
When do you feel the force?
Yeah, I feel the force when it's really, really true to my experience and happening in the present, or if it's something I'm like working through in the moment. But I have forced it and just, made up a song for whatever. In 2019, I wrote a song called Uh-Oh for a movie called Promising Young Woman, or maybe it was 2020. But at the time, the director sent me the scene, gave me some references, and I kind of had to just make a song up that worked for this movie. And so I do have moments when, like, even though I'm not feeling it and, the inspiration isn't speaking to me, I luckily can do it. I don't know if it always, I think I can tell when I'm being genuine and when I'm like kind of forcing it. I don't know if other people can, but that's just one example.
Songwriters have always fascinated me. It's a craft that I just, it's hard for me to understand because it just seems so special and unique. Do you start with a lyric? Do you start with a melody, or just does it depend on the song and the mood and what's happening?
I think most of the time the words inspire me. So like if I want to write a song called, I don't know, what's one of my good titles? Drinks.
Cheers.
Like the lead line was he got mad, so I got drinks. And it was that lyric that, informed the rest of the song, the melody, what the production sounded like. And so I really am inspired by sentences, words. And so that's kind of where I pull the inspo from. But I have been inspired just simply from, guitar lines or piano, and then it comes to me then. But I think mostly because I start with my ink pen. I always say, like, my ink pen is my instrument. That's kind of where it happens.
So for sure, it's your lightsaber, one might say. So how did your hero's journey lead you to our very own Kyle Newman, director of Fanboys, a guy who is so connected to the Star Wars fan community? Did you know that he was bringing that?
Absolutely.
Not only were you going to marry him, but you were also marrying Rebel Force Radio at the same time? Did you know that was happening?
Yeah, throw an FJ DeSanto in there. That's the whole party right there.
Actually. I'm excited. I mean, we were at a Lucasfilm event the other night for Rebuild the Galaxy, for the Lego movie, and or the Lego special, and it's been actually so awesome to like meet all of these people that are contributing to Star Wars, and all these people that I can talk in depth with, like you guys, about Star Wars, because it's been a giant part of my life when I was a little girl up until now. And, I think I tweeted something like, The Mandalorian is so daddy. And then Kyle Newman was right there in my DMs. And that's kind of how, it was
you were brought together by Star Wars. That's so appropriate. Of course, it would be a Star Wars reference tweet, and Mando of all things. Very cool.
Well, because he's so maternal, and so or not maternal, but there's it just really spoke to me at that time. It's so ironic to watch this hero, or I don't know, this Western cowboy type character taking care of a baby. It was all of us girlies in the audience with our ovaries and stuff. We were like, oh my God, this is so cute. Yeah, it really spoke to a specific audience, I think, and then some. It was a broad audience.
How'd you like the Rebuild the Galaxy show? I watched. Jason, did you watch it?
I did.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. We saw it, and
I loved
it. It was there was just something about the overall vibe that just felt right and in tune with Star Wars. And you were at the...
I mean, even despite it being silly, it was really, really great storytelling. There weren't many plot holes. I wasn't confused. There wasn't a random rodent man suddenly breaking down a ship. You know what I'm saying? There was not many.
Yeah.
There was things that were making sense. And I think after The Acolyte, I was really happy to sit and watch something that made me laugh. That all of the characters were really true to themselves. Like Darth Jar Jar was really believable, and so was Darth Maul. Like I was like, okay, now he's like into flowers and a bit metro. You know what I mean? And I believed it completely. I loved it.
Well, I thought Gaten Matarazzo was great as Sig, and I loved hearing Mark Hamill throughout.
Well, that was great.
And,
that was a nice surprise. I don't remember.
Spoiler alert, I guess we should say.
Yeah, they obviously didn't pre-promote that going into it. I was really surprised that it was Mark, but and these voice actors.
Was it actually?
Yeah.
him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and these voice
As a matter
actors
of
are so
fact-
good. It sometimes you have to ask yourself, am I hearing who I think I'm hearing? But yeah, it was Mark Hamill.
As a matter of fact, he even had a consulting producer credit.
I saw that, and I was really actually grateful for that. Like, I think he should be a consulting producer on everything.
Well, I think
Certainly
at least in
things
terms
involving Luke Skywalker, I would agree
right.
with
I
you
think
there.
in terms of
That's
him,
true. That's
in
true.
terms of him returning to the character, it's very well known. It's been very well publicized. Mark has said it many times on the record that he disagreed with the direction in which they were taking his character. So I think as the character is going to continue to be used in Star Wars storytelling and they tap Mark Hamill on the shoulder, I think he's going to demand that. I want to be a consulting producer. I want to have a voice at the table because I really think, and by all accounts, I believe it to be true, that they slammed the door shut in his face when he tried to voice opinions, concerns, or creative ideas about what Luke Skywalker should have been doing in The Last Jedi.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking to think like that. I mean, and I wasn't even I was still in college. I didn't know Kyle. I was not in entertainment. And I remember when I saw the newer movies and when I witnessed Luke just alone on an island, I was like, this is so weird. That didn't even compute to me that he would give up on the Jedi. You know, it does never seemed part of his character. So I'm really glad to hear that that's something he wants to do going forward. Consult, you know.
Well, I'm only assuming, but I mean, I can read between the lines. I know what's going on. I've been following this stuff very closely, and I can connect the dots. Mark wants to have a say as if he's going to be involved. He wants to have a say about how the character gets portrayed. And I bet he wish he did that for The Last Jedi.
And I hope they can trust him. Yeah, totally.
The first laugh out loud moment I had with this show was a line from Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker when he said, "I'm grumpy now." That as soon as he said that, I thought, okay, I'm in because you know, for a lot of us, I feel like I've heard between Simpsons and Family Guy and Phineas and Ferb and all this and the Lego specials, I feel like I've heard just about every original trilogy and almost every prequel trilogy joke, parody joke. But they were so smart here because, one, you get a nice dose of sequel trilogy jokes. You even got a Book of Boba Fett joke thrown in there.
What was that?
They referenced Book of Boba Fett. Like you could even read pages from the Book of Boba Fett. And they kind of, there's like a beat where it's like, I don't know if this is a good idea. So they show that they're willing to poke a little bit of fun at themselves. But what made everything so fresh was this concept where they're totally deconstructing everything. Lego is a perfect vehicle for this type of thing, but they totally deconstruct and then rebuild it. So it made even some of the tropey jokes feel fresh. So, I mean, I don't know how many times you can hear an "it's a trap" joke.
Oh my God!
This one made me laugh because of the reveal of all the clone troopers being Akbars. So this one I thought had a fresh coat of paint. Matt still doesn't like the trap Akbar joke.
The "it's a trap" thing.
I thought that the salt and the pepper joke was funny when he like reaches down and tastes the ground down the salt.
Okay. Yes.
And it was like pepper.
Yes.
That was
with
funny.
everything being flipped on the other side of the coin. That was funny. And the appearance of the Admiral Akbar clone troopers. The It's a Trap thing. It's a trap. And they're all yelling, it's a trap. I felt like just
It's a
running
trope.
head first into the wall. I said, come on, you guys. That was a joke that originated by Seth Green and the gang at Robot Chicken when they did their first Star Wars special.
Okay.
That's like 15 years ago.
Oh, more
Did
than that,
anyone
I think.
come up with something, a better joke for Admiral Akbar? I mean, he's a calamari for crying out loud, an Italian dinner appetizer. The jokes are so there in your face, but everyone has to keep ripping off Robot Chicken with the It's a Trap nonsense, and I've had it.
I look for somebody.
They probably just wanted to make Seth smile. Like, all these guys are friends. They're just like trying to make their friend happy.
Someone needs to try to make Jimmy Mack happy. I'll tell you what would make me happy. Mark Hamill himself.
Yeah, I agree.
told a joke. Mark Hamill himself told a story about how they used to terrorize Akbar on set. They would chase him around with butter and a fork, like he's lobster dinner or something. So there's a joke.
That would have been funny.
There's a joke.
That's an occupational hazard.
By the way, I counted no fewer than 6 cameos of what I would consider live action stars of Star Wars jumping into this special. So here's who I have. I've got Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, Matthew Wood, Ahmed Best, Kelly Marie Tran, and Billy D. Williams. I don't know if I missed any. Those were the ones that I was able to count. And that's cool. Anytime you can bring the live action folks back into animation is really cool.
Were any of those folks at the premiere event?
Yeah, I spoke to Ahmed Best, and I spoke to Darth Maul, Sam
Witwer.
right?
Mm-hmm.
He was there. Yeah, and I also chatted with the 2 lead brothers. They were really nice, and they were really, really grateful to be part of the Star Wars universe. I kept saying, how amazing, how special is it now that you get to like go to all these events and become a part of this giant fandom that like, all they want to do is interact with you. I mean, I feel like that's a dream come true for an actor, And they were really grateful.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's probably overwhelming, when you step into something that is so well established and there's all this expectation. But I have found that Star Wars fans are some of the most welcoming, kind. I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best fan community out there. Because I think generally speaking, we kind of keep it all in the family, I mean, when the Trekkers show up, there might be a problem, but if it's just us Star Wars fans, everything is cool. So knowing the fact that you and Kyle sort of met through social media and there was sort of a Star Wars tie-in, did you have any idea as far as what level of fan you were getting involved with?
Ooh.
And what was there a moment when you realized, oh boy.
Yes.
Well,
I mean, was it the underwear? Was it the underwear, Sam? Was it the Star Wars underoos?
She's not going to discuss.
No, he's like a walking encyclopedia, about the universe, and he can tell you the timeline and the dates and the, before the whatever, however they classify it. Sorry, guys, I can't remember. What is it before? There's like a before Christ.
There's a
version in
Legends,
Star Wars. What
Legends,
is it?
also known as the Expanded Universe, a.k.a. the EU. That's the Legends. And then the new timeline is,
Okay.
I guess, I don't know.
Just expanded universe tie-in. But do you mean like
he'll know what I'm
BBY?
talking about.
Like,
They even have an acronym.
Oh yeah, like BBY
Yes,
before Battle of Yavin,
Oh,
ABY.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
That's when I started
Oh.
to be like, oh, you're using an acronym
BBY.
to discuss the events of the story. And it's
I mean, wait, how did he drop
comparable
this
to,
in
like,
conversation?
before
He's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's
Christ.
so BBY.
Yeah. Were you guys like at a Starbucks or something? And Kyle just started throwing down ABY, BBY. And you were like, I'm OUT.
No, we met during COVID, so Kyle and I didn't really have first dates. We talked on FaceTime for like 2 weeks, and then like met up. And then, yeah, like we're quarantining together type of thing. So it wasn't, it was like, it almost, there was no taking it slow really. So I instantly knew kind of how much of a fan he was, but it wasn't surprising because it was one of the first things we talked about. And I'm also like a giant fan. So it wasn't like he had to tiptoe around it. Like we really got deep into the discussion of where the world was going, where Lucasfilm is taking it now. And we could have that combo because it's something I grew up with. Like I said, it wasn't like I was just coming into it. I had a deep knowledge of it all.
Well, we
already.
all know that you can throw down.
Maybe minus the vocab.
Well, we all know that you can throw down with the wars, but what everybody wants to know is, can Kyle sing?
He's okay.
Really?
He's okay. He has a stunning voice speaking, and so I think if he practiced a little, he could be a good singer. But he's busy. He's really busy.
That's a very good answer. Does he sing in the shower? Do you hear him in the shower?
No, he'll sing to the kids and when he's driving.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mostly to the kids. Right. He's a really good.
Well,
dad,
there's no question, ABY, BBY, it doesn't matter. You are definitely a hardcore Star Wars fan. You're one of us. And when we have notable personalities on Rebel Force Radio, whether it be cast and crew of the actual Star Wars productions or people who are well known for other major achievements, like being an incredible singer-songwriter, pop star, like Sin, whose new album is Valley Girl Lost on Laurel, Side A. Check it out now. You can get it everywhere. Anywhere you can stream music, you can listen to Sin's awesome album with 2 great Star Wars Easter eggs. So when we have someone of your stature on the show, we like to present them with a series of questions that was sent to us via fax by Yoda, the Jedi Master. He faxed us from Dagobah. They don't have email. They don't have text. They don't even have pagers, thank God. But Yoda definitely has a fax machine, and it has that fax machine smell to the paper whenever
it's terrible.
He faxes us. It's incredible. Jason doesn't like. I kind of like it. Jason doesn't like it.
No, I don't like
it. But these are questions. They're not trivia questions, but they're questions that measure your specific subjective thoughts about Star Wars, your opinions, your preferences, and it's known as the Yoda Questionnaire.
The Yoda Questionnaire.
Thank you, Richard Cheese. Yeah. Now that's a song, Sin. The thing you don't know about that song is
a woman singing that.
The thing you don't know about that song is it's only 3 words. The whole song. The whole song is just
That's great.
3 words.
Yeah. Easy lyrics to memorize.
His last name is really Cheese.
Heck yeah.
Yes, it is.
Heck yeah.
Richard
He was
Cheese.
baptized a slice of cheese.
Yeah, it came from the big cheese.
Okay.
The big cheese industry. Okay, so here's the question. As Jimmy may or may not have said, there are no wrong answers to this particular line of questioning, but there are some answers that are more right than others.
Yeah.
So
the possibility of being laughed at or ridiculed is definitely there. So, but we want you to be very honest.
Well, I can handle
have
it.
to be
I've been
honest.
media trained.
You must be honest.
Yeah, because we'll be able to tell.
Of course.
Because part of giving the questionnaire is imparting some of the Jedi wisdom of Yoda himself. So we'll be able to suss it out if you're not telling the truth. So question number 1. Sin, who or what, in the interest of inclusivity here, we got to say, in the Star Wars universe, who or what is your favorite Star Wars character?
Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. Why so?
I think there's just a beautiful sentiment in, being alone on a planet or feeling alone somewhere and discovering that you have special abilities and then really dedicating yourself to working on them and embracing like a certain kind of self-discipline and also putting the greater good, I think, ahead of, your own ego or whatever. And I really have learned a lot from him and what Yoda has taught him. And I think about the challenges that he was up against when I'm facing challenges in my own life, and it was really influential when I was a young person and feeling lonely and dealing with my parents' divorce. Like, obviously, I'm imagining someone coming through my bedroom door and telling me I have these special abilities,
Yeah.
Like, it was just such an incredible moment, I think. And I love him for making me feel like I had a friend while watching him, in the movies.
So that is one of the most lovely responses we've had to, and I mean, it's one of the most lovely responses I've ever heard regarding the character of Luke Skywalker in general.
Yeah, it really is.
Well, I think young people, they need to feel that, I think young people all over the world have moments of feeling really lonely, and I think that's what's so special about this movie, and feeling like I said, you're not special or something, and like at any moment someone can affirm that and reaffirm that and validate that, and you could have, your life could change. I love that kind of hope.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit of encouragement, and the next thing you know,
absolutely,
you're a Jedi Knight.
All right, now this might be hard for you, Sin, because you're such a light person in terms of the light side of the Force. I think is just coming out of all your pores. But we're going to venture a little bit down the dark side here, and I got to ask you, who or what is your least favorite Star Wars character? Least favorite?
I mean, I probably have like a classic least favorite, but since I was just watching The Acolyte, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but the green woman.
Vernestra Rowe. Vernestra Rowe.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so corny. I don't believe it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Well, don't.
There are no apologies with the Yoda questionnaire. No need.
We wanted you to be honest, and let's face it.
It's nothing personal, I mostly have, the quarrel is really with the people who developed the character in the script and who casted the character. It all comes down to that boring, unsexy, part of the industry, that those jobs, I felt that those people who did that, they maybe didn't do a very good job.
Yeah.
So it's my least
That's your
favorite
rope.
character. Damn, I really am married to Kyle Newman, am I? just telling you how I really feel.
Well, Kyle joined us following The Acolyte. We wanted Kyle to soak in the entire series on a whole before we unleashed him on the Rebel Force Radio audience. And his reaction to that series was, I thought, very well thought out. And yeah, he did look at it.
I mean, something about Kyle, I don't know if everybody realizes this, but like something about Kyle is that like he was like an immaculate film student, like the top of his class, And so when he's breaking down a story, he's breaking it down using devices that like the greats did, that he's taken from these professors at NYU, and he's not just like saying it because he has like some loose idea. It's all backed in practice.
No, I've said it many times. I don't think anyone
really
understands the story structure of the Star Wars saga quite as well as Kyle. I think he could teach an absolute masterclass on it, and he does on it, and it comes. It seems like it comes so naturally to him.
Yeah, it just flows out of him.
Yeah, so it's interesting to hear you remind us, that he was a film student and a good film student. All right, Sin, we got another one here for you.
And because people give him a hard time, so I gotta.
We do it.
Kyle
we
puts
do it
himself
out
out there. Yeah, well, we do, but I mean, that's just
not you guys.
That's just friends busting balls. But Kyle does put himself out there, and but he stands by what he has to say, and I appreciate and respect
Somebody
him for
has
that
to.
always.
Yeah. So, Sin,
Anyway,
yes,
back to
to
me.
you. There are a lot of moments, great moments in the Star Wars saga. But which of those moments always makes you smile?
Let me think. What am I always smiling
No matter how
about?
many times you see it always
Now,
just.
maybe it's because I'm a little bit younger than the original Star Wars fans. I'm 31, so I'm not that young. But when Phantom Menace came out, I was a child, so I didn't hate it like I think some people did. And I actually, that's like my comfort movie when I'm feeling down or whatever. So the Phantom Menace always makes me smile. I love. There's another, Anakin is another character being plucked out of obscurity and going somewhere and on a hero's journey. But I think Jar Jar always made me smile. I love Padme, and I just really love the whole.
I like that because we've never had anyone answer this question with a whole film, and I like it because I feel like what you're saying is that there's a vibe to that movie, and the whole experience is. And I also use entertainment like movies and TV shows as comfort food, depending on how I'm feeling, what I need, if I need to fall asleep, if I'm anxious and I need to, calm down or whatever. And so I dig that. I like that. So Phantom Menace, the whole experience makes you smile.
Well, there's one moment when Anakin realizes he's inside of the ship and he realizes he can pull the trigger, pull the thing, and then he's shooting the ship from the inside. When the woman's like, it's blowing up from the inside. That part. That's what it's like. Oh, I'm like, I love this movie.
And you're cool with Jar Jar Binks too.
Got in there.
Sin, you're cool.
I am cool with him. Yeah, I believed it, and I also, now that I know Ahmed best, I know that he was, at least from what I could tell, it was his authentic self. He genuinely put himself into it, and he's come to my house and played Mafia.
No kidding.
So, he's really great.
Kyle with his showbiz role-playing game nights, you can't keep up with him. I mean,
I'm telling you, that's a YouTube channel. You guys,
just want to.
That should be a channel.
That's a YouTube channel. I'm telling you, you got to.
Nah, they want to keep all of the agents and management out of it.
Oh, that's true. All that. Yeah,
it can get messy. They just want to.
No, we'll do it one day.
They just want to have fun. You should. But I just want to make an observation. Over the course of the last month, we've had some great Star Wars women on the show. Ann Newman, the president of Rancho Obi-Wan, Katie Sackhoff, Bo-Katan herself, and now you, singer-songwriter Sin, you all have professed your love for Jar Jar Binks. And so that can only mean one thing. The ladies love Jar Jar Binks.
They love the Binks.
Yes, we do.
They love it.
I mean, women always love I don't know how to describe it. He's charming. He's cute. He's just a little cutie. He's harmless.
Yeah.
He makes us laugh.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to make you sad because my next question is, of all the moments in Star Wars, what moment always makes you sad?
Oh, probably when Obi-Wan and Anakin are having that battle in the lava, and he's got to leave him on the side of the thing, and
you and my brother,
it's burning.
Yeah.
Oh, I
hate you.
It really hurts. And then that was so sad. I do love how there's there's something about when the men in Star Wars are breaking down, like Luke and Anakin and Ben too. There's they share a certain whatever that was that you just did, the I hate you thing. It's like a teenage angst or something in a way. It's youthful. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Of course we do.
Yeah.
We, of course, act like that all the time.
And I like that. I don't think there are many examples of young men, I guess, being vulnerable in that way or, breaking down in that way. And Star Wars does give that to us, and I like that.
Typically, me and Swank act that way the second the microphones go off. You should hear us. It's insanity.
Yeah. Maybe that should be a YouTube channel.
That could be.
Show. All right, Sin, we've got one more question for you. And occasionally, Jedi Master Yoda does allow us to take some artistic license with these questions, and we do like to tailor these for the incredible and talented personalities that we get a chance to talk to. So I'm going to tailor this one to you a bit here. And the question is, if there were another Star Wars movie to be made, and George Lucas came back, he's director, he's executive producer, but he needed a theme song. He needed a song to really kind of bring out all of the emotion of the film and the story.
Oh, God.
And he chose you, Sin. He chose you to write it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, imagine you're getting goosebumps. I can
First
tell
of all,
from
I'm
here.
speechless.
George says, "I want her."
This is a big weight
Yeah.
to carry.
And you finally get in front of George and you press play on the cassette tape, because that's what I think of, right? I guess it would be play on the MP3 player, whatever it is that you kids do. But you hit play. What do you want to hear George say when that track finishes? He's hearing it for the first time. He looks over at you. This is the song he's commissioned you to write.
You're right in front of him, and you're playing it off of your smartphone.
There you go.
And he's standing there, and he's just not even moving while you play it. But then when it's over, he looks up to you and he says,
The force is strong and you.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Wow, that's a great
I
answer.
think he would go, you really have a way with the force, and you understand it, and it flows through you, and very wise.
You know,
Well, he
sometimes people answer
going.
these questions, and you go,
He's not going to shut up.
Yeah. All of a sudden, he's very verbose, and you
right.
can't
He comes
stop
out
the
of that
guy.
shell for that shell he's been in for 70 some years. But sometimes people answer this question, and you go, okay, I really couldn't hear George saying that, but I could totally picture George looking up at you and saying, "Force is with you."
Yeah, for there. That
Ooh.
that track was bussing.
Just
like that.
Just like
I
that.
could hear him saying that. And I think. Have you met George?
No, I haven't met George, but we did. I have been to like Skywalker
Yeah.
Ranch, and I do know his son
Mhm.
Jet. So I'm getting closer. I'm
Yeah,
inching closer.
you're getting there.
I feel like I'll. Yeah.
Yep. Before long, you'll be showing up to the house with a pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving.
And Kyle.
Oh, totally.
And Kyle.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, Kyle. Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll see if he gets invited.
Well, we want everyone to know your new album is out. It's the side A of the album. It's called it's called Valley Girl, Lost on Laurel, side A.
Well,
I think
thank
our
you.
audience will really dig your album. So congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's always such a treat to talk to you guys, experts on Star Wars, and you always have such an honest take, and I appreciate it. Thank you for interacting with me on Twitter too when I'm tweeting my controversial tweets.
You're so,
Right.
it's so controversial.
Right. Well, we love you. We love.
Oh, I was so PG. Come on, but you know what I mean.
Right. Yeah.
You tell it like it is, and that's why we love you.
Yeah. So best to you, best to Kyle, best to the kids, all of that. We love you, and thank you for spending the time with us tonight. All right.
Totally. Love back to you guys. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thanks, Sin.
Take care.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was great getting a chance to talk to Sin. Mrs. Kyle Newman, how wonderful. And, breaking down the Rebuild the Galaxy. Jim, I got to tell you, I went into it with a little trepidation because, as Sin mentioned, coming off of The Acolyte, even though that had its ups and its downs, Star Wars parody kind of peaked at a time when Star Wars was kind of at an all-time high. So you could kind of take the jabs and the punches and all of that. And I was a little worried how this was going to land on me, given that, we've had, like The Acolyte, we've had a lot of ups and downs in fandom and all of that. And I got to tell you, there was such a rich story with the two brothers that the parody and the jokes were there, and there were some that were a little tropey, and we've heard a million times before. But there was such a cool story with the brothers that I found very relatable. I loved it. I thought the performances were really true, really honest. They weren't, over the top hammy. The addition of Mark Hamill just absolutely was the cherry on top of it for me. So I really, really enjoyed it. I also enjoyed the fact that it was like 100 minutes worth of content. It was really good. It wasn't like, a 28-minute thing and then it's, here and gone. It had a chance to build and resolve. And I thought it was much deeper and maybe a bit more sophisticated than some of the other Lego specials that we've seen in the past, where it was just joke, 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 joke.
Right. And I think they understand that there's legs to this. And the way it ended is clearly setting up a season 2. And there was just, you're right, though. There was a richness to the story about the brothers where it wasn't all just joke central. When it came down to the thread that was running through the whole story, you actually found yourself taking it a little bit seriously. And I think that's because they presented it that way, despite there was all the absurdity happening around it in each and every episode. Of course, the vocal cameos were great. A lot of veteran Clone Wars voice staff there, like Phil Lamar and D. Bradley Baker.
Right?
Darth Nubs.
Now, I got a question, though. Young Luke Skywalker, I don't think... I've got the full cast list here. I don't see it credited, but I felt like young Luke, ROTJ era Luke, that was at the very beginning, was Matt Lanter. And he has done Luke before on these.
I'll take that in the Sound Lab. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah. And then I also wanted to bring
up... Or it
up...
will be revealed by then.
Yeah.
It was actually Matt.
But I also wanted to bring up the fact that this is... I believe this is the first that we haven't had either Frank Oz or Tom Kane playing Yoda in a very long time. So I wanted to talk about the actor that played Yoda here. This is Peter, I believe. How it's pronounced?
Piotr, I believe.
Yeah. Peter Michael. Peter Michael playing Yoda. And I thought he did a great job. Very much more in the spirit of Frank Oz than the Tom Kane version, but very much Yoda. But it's certainly, I think, because we've known and followed this for so long that it just kind of, I noticed it. We'll put it that way.
Well, I'll tell you what, Peter, he made his debut as Yoda in the Young Jedi Adventure show. So
I'm late to that party because I didn't watch the series.
And now with his appearance in Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, he's firmly establishing his grasp of that role as far as animation goes. Now, should Yoda reappear in live action, I think the first choice is going to be Frank Oz. And I think Frank Oz will deliver. And then beyond Frank Oz, they might AI the voice for the character moving forward. But I'm just happy to see they're still tapping living, breathing humans to voice these animated shows. Also, last week when we were doing our tribute to James Earl Jones, I mentioned the voice talent Matt Sloan as a guy who had been voicing Darth Vader, and he was discovered in YouTube shorts called Chad Vader. They were just like, it was like Darth Vader working at a supermarket or something like that, if I remember correctly.
He was doing all kinds of things.
And he was a guy who reappeared playing the role of the white-armored Darth Vader in the Lego Rebuild the Galaxy show. And that's the first time I think Matt has returned to the role in a long time. I don't recall hearing him in anything. Also, I failed to mention last week that there is another voice talent who's been performing as Darth Vader, an actor named Scott Lawrence, and he's been doing the role of Darth Vader going all the way back to like the late 90s in things like computer games, video games, etc. And Scott Lawrence also played the character of Jarek Yeager in Star Wars Resistance.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so deep-voiced guy. I mean, like, great pipes on him. He was also in the movie Cloverfield, and he does a lot of on-screen work as well. But I neglected to mention him last week. I just went for the Matt Sloan. But oddly enough, Matt Sloan reappeared within days of the random mention of him on RFR. Well, it wasn't so random, but the mention of him on RFR. All of a sudden, he's back as Darth Vader, this time the good guy, white armored version.
Yeah. And I love that they kept the same sort of dynamics between him and Palpatine, even though they were on the good side. They were, that was still going
Palpatine
on.
still kept him under his thumb as much as he could. Yeah, but just a lot of fun. This Lego special. It was just a really good time, and I really appreciated that. Kind of like Sin, it was a sort of nice palate cleanser, if you will, following the Acolyte. Just as far as fresh Star Wars stuff goes, obviously more kid focused, but still fun for the kid and the adult.
Yeah,
which is ever present in me, and I'm sure a major majority of our audience as well. So.
Yeah, agreed.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right, that's going to wrap things up for us here this week on Rebel Force Radio. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. A special thanks to Sin for chatting with us in the cantina and recounting her experience at the big premiere for Lego Rebuild the Galaxy. Thank you so much, Sin. Don't forget about Sin's new album, Valley Girl, Lost on Laurel Part 1. Available wherever music is sold. That's everywhere. If you need more Rebel Force Radio in your life, the best way to get that is Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio or go to rebelforceradio.com. Click on the Patreon banner there on the right rail, and you'll be taken where you can sign up. A buck gets you in, a buck gets you listening to exclusive podcasts you can't find anywhere else. We talked about it earlier in the program. Check it out and join a great community of Star Wars fans. I think the best community of Star Wars fans found anywhere online. Also, watch us on YouTube and follow us on all the socials, Instagram, Facebook, X. Rebel Force Radio is there, at Rebel Force Radio, at RFR Rebel Force. And the website, as I mentioned, for all things and everything Rebel Force Radio. If you're like, oh, what's going on with these guys? I hear they got a Patreon. I hear they got all these... Just go to rebelforceradio.com. It's all there. Links to the YouTube videos, links to the socials, links to Patreon, links to the podcasts. It's all there. There's a great search feature. So if you're wondering if we had a certain guest on, it's a really great search feature. Just type their name in and you'll get directed to those episodes, including all the after shows. But above all, the best thing you can do to help us out, we appreciate it. It costs you nothing. That's just keep listening and keep recommending the #1 Star Wars podcast anywhere in the galaxy to your friends, your family members. And subscribe if you can. That's right. Whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe or follow. They're using different words these days, but you know what I'm talking about. Make sure that you get served up each and every episode of Rebel Force Radio. And if you can, leave us a review. We love to have those reviews. We read them all. We really do. Just one simple rule, please.
Make them good.
We'll see you next week here on Rebel Force Radio. Thanks again so much. We'll see you next time for Rebel Force Radio. I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
It's a trap! It's a trap! It's a trap! It's a trap! It's a trap!